Euston PSB, and we, if you want to go straight to the first slide, Angus, it's the old power signal box for Euston Station. So our brief was to provide a design or designer protection screen, essentially, to protect the railway during the demolition works. And if we want to go, if we could see, yeah, there we go. So the key limitations for this were the site constraints, with Euston Station being so close to the edge of our structure. And stemming from this, was the need for a system that could be easily and quickly installed. In addition, obviously, the system would have to be fairly robust to be able to withstand small debris impacts during the demolition phase. And the other key item that we were asked to consider was to maximise the reusability of the system that we used. As you can see, that plan on the top right, there's another key constraint there, which was that the section that's hatched in green had to remain accessible at all times due to the track access point. It was the main maintenance point, I think, to that area of the rail. So Angus, do you want to go on to the next one? So following an initial brainstorming of ideas, we decided that there were two routes that we could go down, and we discussed both of these routes with our client, and we were asked to produce concepts for each. The first one was a reusable fabricated system, and the few images that I showed on the screen are sort of screenshots from the initial concepts for that. Essentially, we came up with the concept to use a series of modules, which you can see on the plan. So we've got type A, type B, and type C. So the type A is the 3D image that you can see there, which is the standard module that we came up with the concept for. And the idea behind that module would be that's what would be used predominantly, and it would be essentially, you could flat pack it and store it and be able to reuse that on future schemes. And then the module type B was an access module to aid installation and things. And type C kind of was a stiffening module to give additional strength to this type B, because that was mostly stairs. But we produced several iterations of this scheme, and the stability was provided by essentially a thin concrete pad at the base with cartilage blocks stacked on it. But I thought it was quite a nice little solution to the problem. But ultimately, we went with the other concept if Angus wants to go on to the other concept. So the second concept was a container solution where we stack containers up and strap them together to create a robust screen. The screen would gain stability from filling the containers with cartilage as required. And ultimately, as I said before, this is the concept that was chosen, I think primarily due to the lead time and the initial fabrication cost of the fabricated system. Angus, do you want to go to the next one, please? So moving on to the detailed design of the container screen, we took inspiration essentially from how containers are restrained on container ships, and used the standard components that essentially are being used in the way that they're intended, but just for a different purpose of the overall scheme. So the same forces would be applied to them as would be on a container ship essentially, but just a different use. Quite a good idea to use it in this way. The foundation was relatively thin and had a small UB encased within it, and welded to the top of this was the top corner brackets of a container. So you could put when you put the bottom container on, you could put that on and it would be the standard container fixing detail that would be used. And then we used lashings at the bottom few containers as the design calculations suggested was needed. And we used a combination of bridging clamps and twist locks, which you can see we've got A, B, C, D, E, and F for all the different combinations of these as was needed for the scheme. The lower few containers contained the majority of the kennelage, which was IBCs that were filled, and the upper containers we just placed one IBC at either end, which was more of a detail to make sure that the twist clamps were clamped properly when you sat them on, when you sat the upper containers on the other ones. I'm going to jump to the next one. As the system of using the twist clamps and bridging clamps was fairly new to our client, because it's not obviously it's not typical for demolition, our client decided to create an off-site mock-up in their yard, which I went to go and see, and to sort out any teething problems during the install and ensure that everything went as planned and that they'd hashed out any issues before they came to the final install adjacent to the rail. There's photos of that there. Do you want to jump onto the next one again, Angus? So here we've got photos of the installation of the screen on site and the demolition, I suppose. So you can see on the left we've got the last glass container being lifted in, and a photo on the right from the tracks. And in the center of the screen we've got the demolition progressing. Our clients for the scheme, as I say, were John F. Hunt Demolition, and their clients were the Costa and Skanska, and they actually put this scheme forward for Demolition Innovation of the Year. Unfortunately, it didn't win, but it's good to be nominated.